Super Mario Bros. Is a 0.1 second from perfect. It's happening. Dawn of the current day, 6 frames remain. For a while now, people have been asking, will the perfect run ever happen? And in just 5 short years or so, things have gone from, probably not, to, well, it could maybe happen, to, yeah, it's for sure gonna happen, someday. But as of last month, very suddenly, it could happen any second. There are a few reasons this is happening, part of which is a new challenger approaches. In this video, we'll go over the latest brand new world record in this game. I'll talk about what makes it special, where we're at now in the roadmap to perfection, and more. Stick around! Before moving on, I need to tell you about this video's sponsor. One big reason I love speedrunning is that it just looks cool. So many strategies, or movement techniques, or glitches just look awesome. And with today's sponsor, Patrick Adair Designs, it's a similar story. They make various jewelry that just looks cool. There's pendants, bracelets, and they're best known for their handcrafted rings. Each one is unique, especially because of the various exotic materials they use to make them. You can take your pick of whatever metal or materials suit your taste, and even add an engraving for more customization. For me, I've always thought black opals look sick. So I chose this black opal glowstone ring. They sent me and my wife a matching set. I think they really shine best out in the sun, and they glow in the dark if you charge them up with a UV light. If you're interested in trying them out, they're doing a summer sale right now, so everything is buy one, get one free. And with that, you can mix and match across all items on the site. Be sure to use my link in the description and go check them out. Alright, let's talk about Super Mario Bros. Any percent. One thing to quickly get out of the way first is that there has been some drama surrounding the speedrun lately that you may have heard of. I know people are going to be wondering and commenting about it, so I've made a video which is linked in the description, giving my thoughts and some updated and more accurate information on the situation. So yeah, as far as the input swapping drama goes, please direct your attention there. And the rest of this video will focus on Lekuki and his amazing achievement. Okay, here we go. We have a brand new world record, which is always news, and this time it's by a brand new world record holder, which is extra newsworthy. The list of record holders is very short, considering you can go back over 20 years and still count them all with your fingers. Back in 2007 was when the more modern rule set started being used, which allows glitches. Since then, the list of record holders has been a single-digit number, until now, with Lekuki. This is the man of the hour, another fierce competitor who broke through to add his name to the list for the first time. Or is it the first time? Yes, this is in fact the first time Lekuki has broken the world record. But it's not the first time he's held it. In 2020, Lekuki actually tied the world record on the dot.
I tied record? What? I tied record! I tied record!
For those of us who've been around a while, this new record by Lekuki is no surprise. It's been a long time coming. He's had the potential to do a run like this, but a lot of circumstances have held him back, and he just never quite broke through until now. Let's go over a bit of his story and what it took for him to get here. This just might be the man to get the perfect run. Lekuki started speedrunning this game in early 2019 and got his first run under 5 minutes. But back then, he had to play the game in very suboptimal conditions.
I was extremely poor at the time, more poor than I am right now. I only had a PS2, so I had to play through Homebrew. I kinda had to deal with the input lag that I didn't know it was so bad back then. Also had to deal with the frame rate being worse.
Here, Lekuki explains that his only method of playing at the time was on his PlayStation 2 with a laggy emulator, and the game's frame rate was a little too slow, so he would lose time from that as well. He couldn't properly compete on the leaderboards this way, so he decided to just get as good at the game as possible until he got a better setup.
I kept practicing a lot. Like, I got good at 1-2G even, I got good at FPG. My mentality at that time was, well, I can't really start being super competitive for stuff, so I'm just gonna practice runs.
During this time, Lekuki was becoming a bit of a hidden boss in Super Mario Bros. Out of nowhere, he would achieve things like this. Here in 4.2, we usually do a glitch to make this pipe send us to the warp zone, but the intended way to get there is to climb this vine. So that's what you do in the glitchless category. Getting the fastest frame rule for glitchless 4-2 is really tough and requires a precise way of climbing up these blocks and the vine. At the time, it was considered too hard to pull off. But Lakuki went ahead and did it anyway. He was the first person ever to do a perfect glitchless 4-2.
I got the toss frame rule on 4-2. Let's go, dude.
Down the road a bit in 2020, after a while of practicing in the shadows, he finally was able to move on from his laggy PlayStation setup. He got an NES, and the first thing he wanted to do with it was break a world record. Specifically, he had been dabbling in the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2, aka the Lost Levels. This game has no shortage of hard strategies you can add into your runs. And since Lakuki had been practicing so much, he realized he actually already had the skill to implement some of these and beat the world record in this game. What he didn't expect was to beat the world record in just a couple days.
No way! No! What? What?
After all his practice, he finally had something to show for it. Except there was a problem.
The PAL M NES, which if you guys don't know, because in Brazil, the second party company that resold NES in here officially, they changed a specific component inside of the console that makes it run the tiniest bit slower because of how our analog video standard worked back then. Nobody knew about that actually at the time.
After getting what should have been a new world record, it turns out Lakuki was still plagued by hardware and frame rate issues. In Brazil, the NES was made slightly differently. This made the game run slightly too slow. So Lakuki lost half a second from that, and technically didn't break the record after all. Nobody knew about this issue before Lakuki's run. Brazil is the only country in the world that had this video standard, and that's where Lakuki is from. Just extremely unfortunate circumstances. Another huge obstacle in his path to competing.
But I was super disappointed, and I was with the mentality of, well, if I can't really be competitive, I just gotta keep delaying my progress until I am able to have good hardware.
So, back to the shadows Lakuki goes. He keeps practicing. He's getting so good at all of these precise tricks in this game. He's basically on par with all the other top players. He just has no way to truly show it. And this is where the community decided enough was enough. It was time to free Lakuki.
It is a community effort for me to be here today. Jeremy gave me his NES. Dr. Mustache, he gave me my Everdrive. Tree gave me a controller. Nishiki gave me, I can't even count. Maximum gave me my capture card I have and my computer. People just gave me a bunch of stuff. But yeah, W community, I'm super glad you guys have been helping me for so long. I don't even think I deserve it.
Lakuki was generously gifted a lot of hardware from members of the community. Now he had an NES that runs at the proper frame rate, a way to capture his gameplay directly instead of filming his TV screen, and access to the same practice tools as everyone else. He quickly got off to the races, doing speedruns of Super Mario Bros. Any%. Here is what happened on day 1 of attempts.
8-6! Yes!
And on day 2 of attempts.
I tied record? What? I tied record!
All of his preparation and practice before now very quickly pays off. Lakuki gets his first big breakthrough and ties the world record at the time, 455.64. This is obviously a huge achievement and was pretty satisfying for him to finally show what he was capable of. But it wasn't satisfying enough. It was only a tied record after all. Plus, around this time, new developments had been happening in this game, and just a few weeks after this run, the record got pushed down to 455.4. The path to a time of 454 was very quickly opening up. Lakuki had his sights set high, and he wanted to truly cement his name in the record books by being the first to achieve it. He put forth his best effort doing attempts at it and practicing the new tricks. But over the course of that, he actually ran into hardware issues yet again. His controllers were wearing out or breaking, which was very frustrating because it was so hard for him to get good hardware to begin with. Issues like this made it hard to keep up. And within just 6 months of his tied record run, the record was pushed down to 454.9. An amazing moment in the game's history, but a bit discouraging for Lukuki.
That I just couldn't play properly. Inevitably, I lost the race to 454. Then I grew super sad about all the stuff that was going on.
Situations like this were just how the story went for him for a long time. He would have periods of high activity, but often get burned out or discouraged, leading to periods of low activity. Sometimes he would take a break and play other games, or he would focus on chasing other goals, like playing the first ever perfect 8-4. A huge achievement, which he did do.
It's over! Yes! Yes! Yes!
But yeah, for several years, he was struggling to make his dreams in this game a reality.
Like every single possible thing. It could have been like controller being bad, or like the whole zero framer problem that we thankfully fixed. And then after that, I couldn't get a PB for years. Multiple times I like broke down on stream from crying over how bad my mentality was.
I think it goes without saying that these experiences weren't very fun for him. By all accounts, Lukuki was a very successful speedrunner, but it doesn't feel like it when you come so close to your goals and never quite reach them. Thankfully, near the end of last year, things started to turn up.
Recently, everything started converging towards me actually starting to win.
Lukuki got all his controller issues solved, and there was a new approach figured out in 4-2, which was the hardest level in the run.
When the whole like new Sergio setups for Lightning 4-2 started becoming a thing, suddenly he became a reality to get record again.
Beating the record was back in Lukuki's sights once again, and with the momentum of these things behind him, he started to make a huge push for it. I'll get into more of the details on this later, but as part of the process, he actually did a complete overhaul of how he plays the game.
I've been reinventing myself thoroughly to get somewhere with this game.
Finally, in June of this year, it was time. He was ready. On his second day back at it, he got a run on perfect pace to 8-4. That run didn't pan out, but he kept going. And 2 days later...
Yes, come on. Real chance of record here. I'm him! Dude, I can't even pop off because my dad like asked. I got record! Like, oh my god, I can't even pop off properly! Let's go, dude! I don't care! Bro, my dad is so mad at me because I'm streaming.
He finally did it. It was a very difficult journey, but with enough effort, dreams do come true. Alright, well, that's the story of Lukuki, and how he eventually achieved this run. I hope you enjoyed hearing about his journey. Now, let's actually go over the run a bit. First, I want to put this run in context. The 8-4 in it is so clean, which, yeah, that's what you'd expect from a new world record in this game. But actually, that's rarely been the case. Let me explain. Since my last video on this topic, there has been a real struggle from the other top players to close out a clean 8-4 and bring the record down. Niftsky got a 454.44 in late October last year, and then Averge tied it to the frame a week later. In both of these runs, they struggled to do this part right here properly. And by that, I mean they lost like 4 frames on it. But that's a lot at this point. They kept doing attempts, and a lot of runs were getting to this part, but they were just never quite nailing it. And when Averge finally did...
This is it! Please finish.
This run would have been a 454.38, so this was pretty tragic. A couple weeks later, they had this run.
It's tied record again. No.
They tied the record to the frame again. So now the 3 fastest runs of this game ever are all the exact same speed. How does this keep happening? Finally, a couple days later, they had this run. They weren't 100% sure exactly what the pace was, and they really did not want to tie the record again. So they went for this fast acceleration trick in the last room to save 1 extra frame. With that, the run came out to 454.41, and that was the record from last December until June. Now, there's a big reason I bring all of this up, you know, other than just to give a sort of running history of the speedrun. And it's because it really puts Lakuki's run into perspective. This run is so clean and so clutch. 3 years ago was the first time the world record was perfect up until 8-4. And ever since then, every world record has had some spot in 8-4 with at least a small error, some time lost somewhere. Their time wasn't as fast as it could have been based on the strategies they went for. But that changed here with Lakuki's run. He pulls out an immaculate 8-4. This is only his third run ever to 8-4 on this pace, and the first one passed the steps at the start, but he just nails everything super clean. Dozens of other record pace runs have died at this point by other players, but Lakuki does it perfectly. Literally 0 frames lost for the strats he went for. Plus, at the time, his PB was still a 454.8. He improved his personal best by almost half a second in one go. Really satisfying and really impressive. Lakuki's first untied world record, a long time coming.
I've been putting so much time into this game for so many years because I never got what I was trying to do for so long. I just felt like a failure. It was worth it, dude. I'm having tears of joy right now. People were like, it's crazy how I never had record. Well, there you go, bro. I did it. I freaking did it.
Alright, now I want to go over some other interesting details about this run. I won't comment on everything because honestly, I've covered so much of this run before in other videos, and it doesn't make sense to repeat things every time. But I am committed to always including some new details for you that haven't been covered yet, and making this interesting and worth your time. So, first thing, I just want to point out something interesting on the title screen. You can see Lakuki waiting around for a little while here. This is to manipulate the patterns he gets throughout the run. This concept isn't new, it's been used to get the bullet in 8-2 to shoot and good Bowser patterns for years now. What's interesting here though, is that because Lakuki wants some very particular patterns for going this fast through the game, he does end up waiting a good 13 seconds on the title screen. While doing so, you'll notice on the menu, he moves down and hovers over 2-player game. Eventually, he goes back up and starts the run. But what was up with that? The reason he does this is actually to prevent the demo from playing. Moving the cursor between 1 and 2-player game will delay this little title screen demo. Otherwise, when he pushes start, it would just cancel the demo and not actually start the game. Anyway, just a detail I thought was fun. Next up, let's talk about the grips he uses throughout the run. You may have noticed that Lakuki often holds his controller in some interesting ways. Using 2 fingers rather than your thumb for the A and B buttons is not unusual at all these days. Plenty of runners do that, either for certain sections or for the entire run. But Lakuki's using fingers on the D-pad, and sometimes fingers and thumb. He's holding the controller sideways, he's switching around mid-level. What is this guy doing?
When I mention how I've been reinventing myself thoroughly, that's what I mean. Like, I completely changed how I play the game. I started doing absolutely unorthodox stuff, playing the game in ways absolutely nobody would be thinking one should play. Just reinventing how the game is played for controller.
As you heard, Lakuki has been pretty much revolutionizing the way the game can be played. And it has to do in large part with that last line we heard, reinventing how the game is played for controller. What does he mean by for controller? Well, a lot of you are probably aware, or have noticed in clips I've shown throughout this video, that a lot of records in recent years have been played on keyboard. This is an allowed method of competing in this game. And believe me when I say, the research has been done, and all the differences between playing on keyboard and controller are thoroughly analyzed and considered. It's fine if you just don't really like the idea of it, or prefer things be done on original hardware. But from a competitive standpoint, very knowledgeable people have deemed that keyboard doesn't give an unfair advantage. So that's that. But, I mean, you can say that, but what's the proof of it? Nifsky has been absolutely dominating on keyboard. He had this record firmly to himself for almost 4 years straight. When someone finally did come along and start beating him, they also played on keyboard. The majority of players play on controller, but the top 3 all played on keyboard. And you're gonna tell me that keyboard isn't advantageous? Well, don't take it from me. Take it from Lakuki.
My existence proves that controller is probably better for any percent.
If you ask Lakuki, controller not only can keep up with keyboard, it's better than keyboard.
You guys can take that as you will. If you disagree, that's fine.
Over the years, progressively more precise and technical tricks are being incorporated into runs. And while some of these might seem a bit more straightforward to perform on keyboard with its 4 distinct directional buttons, there's one aspect where keyboard gets blown out of the water by controller. And that's with quick left and right inputs. Some tricks in this game require instantly switching from right to left. And that's doable enough on either keyboard or controller. But then some tricks require instant right to left and back to right again. And then some tricks still require instant left, right, switching directions on back to back to back frames, perfectly timed and all within a 20th of a second. That's fast. That's tough. Go back 5 years and we weren't sure this was even possible. And if it was, people thought it might even have to be on keyboard.
There are serious doubts as to whether or not this one is humanly possible, but it's theorized that this trick would be easier on keyboard than with a controller, which would likely create a big controversy in the future.
Input sequences like this have been done on keyboard with great effort, but ultimately, it's actually controller that has come out on top by holding the controller like this. Here's a clip of a runner named 3Creepio, and this demonstration he made in 2021 is the first time someone showed a way that inputs like this can reliably be performed. The way it works is, you hold one side of the D-pad with your thumb, and then flick the other side. Left and right on the D-pad are connected like a seesaw, so when you flick one side down, the other side comes up. But your thumb pushes it right back down afterward. And using this leverage of the D-pad is how you get super fast and consistent right to left to right inputs. Keyboard doesn't have the left and right buttons connected like this, so this technique isn't possible on keyboard, and it gives controller a major advantage. One of the big tricks that requires inputs like this is a special version of the flagpole glitch that only works on the PAL version of the game. Just a couple weeks ago, Nifsky posted the first ever sub 5-minute run on the PAL version, and he played the run entirely on controller to make use of this technique on 3 out of the 5 flagpoles in the run. This trick saves so much time that if someone grinds out a run with it on all 5 flagpoles, they'll actually get a time faster than Lakuki's 454.36 on the NTSC version. So that's something interesting to look forward to in the future. Anyway, holding a controller like this is a really powerful tool in the right circumstances. Normally, it's only been used as a one-off thing. Players whip it out for a really hard trick, and then go back to holding the controller normally. But recently, Lakuki started playing like this all the time. He started maining this grip so he can have access to precise D-pad inputs whenever he needs. He does have some modified versions of it that he'll switch between, so it's not quite so cumbersome all the time. But yeah, with his commitment to this playstyle, Lakuki has become the most powerful controller wielder to date. Also, it's not just fast left and right inputs this gives him access to either. There are other things which have historically been easier to do on keyboard. Like, sometimes you want to flick left or down for a single frame to adjust Mario's position, or release right for a single frame. Lakuki keeps innovating to find ways to do all of these things on controller. Like, for example, to release right for one frame, he does a flick on the edge of the controller itself to pop his thumb up off the D-pad. With this, and all of his other various techniques and controller grips, he has entirely closed the gap on a lot of advantages keyboard may have had, while still maintaining the advantages that controller has. It's funny in a way, because holding the controller like this is similar to what people have done for one-handed runs, which is kind of just a silly side category. What used to be done as a challenge run is becoming standard. But yeah, ultimately, Lakuki has worked really hard to optimize his approach to the game, and now he has perhaps the finest control of Mario we've seen thus far. And it's gonna come in handy because this level of skill is what's needed for 8-4. 8-4 is the only place left to save time in the run. At this point, I'm gonna go over where Lakuki saved time over the previous record, and then talk about where the final frames are that remain. If you want the full nitty-gritty breakdown of this stage, I've previously made a video covering every detail, all the techniques used, and how to squeeze every frame out of this stage. I went ahead and put a link in the description with a timestamp of the exact part you'll want to watch. Alright, that being said, the core technique at play here is fast accelerations. Mario has faster backwards acceleration in the air than he does traveling forwards on the ground. In order to get up to top speed as fast as possible, you need Mario facing to the left while you accelerate to the right. That means instantly turning around and doing a jump at the start of each room. It also means tapping left just before Mario runs off of the pipes to keep him facing left as he falls down. This is where a lot of those very fast left to right inputs come in. Anyway, here we go. Let's compare Lakuki's run to the previous world record. Shoutouts to Flibbity Dibbity for making these comparisons. Alright, so both of these runs do a fast acceleration at the start, but Lakuki saves 1 extra frame by doing the inputs for it perfectly. So that's 1 frame ahead. In the next room, Lakuki adds in a fast accel to save another frame here, and then both runs execute the wall jump perfectly. They both do the fast accel at the start of the next room perfectly as well. But that's not the case for what comes next. Lakuki stops in the perfect spot here, just far enough to trigger the wrong warp to the next room. The previous record went a couple pixels too far. Both have great fast accels back to the pipe, but yeah, with this excellent turnaround section, Lakuki picks up another 2 frames. In the water section, both runs are perfect, which is common because it's by far the easiest room. And finally, the last room is interesting. Remember, Averge did a fast acceleration here to make sure they didn't tie the record again. Lakuki is already on pace for an excellent new record improvement, so he doesn't need to go for this. That means he's 1 frame slower here, and ultimately comes out 3 frames ahead. And yeah, that's how he brought the record down into the 454.3 range. 454.36. Exactly 0.1 or 6 frames from a perfect run. Alright, real quick as a disclaimer, 454.26 is the perfect time under the rule set speedrunners use, which bans pressing left and right at the same time. If you did allow left plus right, the true fastest known time the game can be completed is 454.03. Maybe people will dabble with that after a perfect run is done without left plus right, but yeah, that's a separate topic. Anyway, let's go through this 8-4 one more time and see where those 6 remaining frames are. Most of them are doing falling fast accels, the thing I mentioned earlier where you turn around just before running off a ledge to keep Mario facing left longer and accelerate even faster. Alright, here at the start, Lakuki is 1 frame off of perfect because he didn't go for the falling fast accel. This one is particularly hard and requires crazy inputs. Moving on to room 2, you may have noticed this part looks a little weird in Lakuki's run. Here, Lakuki actually went for the falling fast accel, but his left press was 1 frame too early, so Mario turned back around before running off. This is the only mistake in Lakuki's entire run, if you can even call it that. He specifically goes for this one because if you hit left 1 frame early like he did, it doesn't mess up the rest of the room. He can still play it the same and get good positioning for the wall jump. Missing it in this way doesn't lose any extra time. But yeah, anyway, ultimately, this means that Lakuki lost 1 more frame here over perfect. So that's 2 frames so far. In room 3, we add a couple more frames to the list. First, you can't do a falling fast accel in this room since there's a ledge you need to jump up to. You have to do a backwards jump up instead. Lakuki chose not to go for this in his run, so there's a frame. And then there's 1 more frame you can save on this turnaround section by manipulating Mario's speed and position perfectly to stop as fast as possible and get in the pipe as fast as possible. Alright, so that's 4 frames from perfect heading into the water section. No frames to save here, which means the final 2 are in the last room. Lakuki skipped the fast accel and falling fast accel here, which is where those final 2 frames come from. And that's it. That completes the remarkably short list of frames lost in this run. Just one Mario length from perfect. I hope it's clear at this point that the perfect run is happening. It really is just adding in a couple more fast excels and properly timing the one in wall jump room. I'm not saying any of that is easy, and it's hard just to reach 8-4 in the first place, but let me now show you the greatest evidence that the perfect run is right around the corner. At the start of this year, a perfect 8-4 had only been done a handful of times ever. But now that 8-4 is the only place left to save time, and the record is getting close enough to perfect that it's worth focusing on actually aiming for it, well, let's just say that number has skyrocketed. In just the last couple of months, Nifsky and Lukuki have done perfect 8-4s hundreds of times. Genuinely hundreds. They've each gotten it back to back at some point as well. Here's also a clip of them doing it simultaneously, in sync, just for fun. And most promising of all, 2 months ago, Lukuki posted this video, where he starts from a save state at the beginning of 4-2 and plays a perfect run from there, including a perfect 8-4. That's the back 5 out of 8 levels done perfectly. This settles it. Without a doubt, it's happening. I knew it was going to happen at some point, maybe even sooner than we would expect. But the progress lately has been incredibly fast, and I didn't expect that the time for it could be right now. With this latest record from Lukuki, he has officially started doing attempts for the perfect run. The next runs to reach 8-4 will be the first time someone actually goes for a perfect 8-4 at the end of an otherwise already perfect run to that point. Nifsky is also full steam ahead, attempting it as well, starting this week. Keep an eye on these two channels right now. This might be literally the last time we ever see this world record be broken. It'll be interesting to see how many attempts it takes when it does happen. Either way, the important thing is that it will happen, and it very well could happen today. Alright, well, I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of Lukuki's story and details about his run. Subscribe for more breakdowns in the future, and thanks for watching.